Recently at sheetsresume.com, we've gotten an influx of former federal government workers who have been laid off by DOGE. And personal feelings aside about the impotence and pointlessness of all these cuts, I would love to help out as many affected government workers as I can with sheetsresume.com. So, if you are a government employee transitioning to civilian life, here's what you need to know about applying for a job in the civilian world. First and foremost, scratch the government approved resume that the recruiter at the DOD or the military trained to use. Do not use multi-page resumes. Don't have incredibly small font. Don't have a summary section. Don't, have like all your like certifications up top and like your heading taking up 25% of the page. We see terrible government resumes all the time at Sheets Resume. And it is frustrating that the recruiters in the US government seem to want to keep you trapped there and not let you be more competitive in civilian job searches. So, first and foremost, go to sheetsresume.com, click on our advice section, start reading through all the things that make a good resume so you can understand the goal of a resume. The goal of a resume is not to get you a perfect picture of yourself and tell your life story to a recruiter. The goal of a resume is to get a phone call. And in order to do that, you need to be attractive in 10 seconds or less and get a hell yes, a sheet yes by the screener that is sort of the gatekeeper of that interview time for their boss. Because when you're applying for jobs, there's two things you have to think about: the AI resume screen, the ATS, and are you going to get through that? And then the human screener who is going to actually schedule the interview after they look at the resumes that have been spit out by the ATS. And there's two very different incentives here. The ATS system is erring on the side of inclusion because the only way they get fired or their software gets uninstalled by their clients is if they're keeping good candidates from appearing in the pile of resumes it spits out every day. So the ATS is always going to err on the side of inclusion. On the flip side, the human screener's incentive is not get yelled at by their boss and called a fucking idiot because they are, giving interviews and time on their boss's calendar to people who are unqualified. So the human screener, who generally has like 1,000 resumes per day to get through, and if you do the math, if you do 1,000 resumes and call it 5 hours, so you have 3 hours left over for other things at your job, that's 200 resumes an hour, three per minute, or one every 20 seconds. And so these people are just blowing through resumes. They're not reading them. They're scanning them for signal, both positive and negative signal. And as a government employee, as ex-military or ex-government, ex-DOD, wherever you've been working, you are going to have many, many transferable skills that apply to civilian jobs. And so, just make sure that the most impressive thing on your resume is right up front. For a lot of you, that's going to be the largest US government agency name that you can come up with. If you're like a sub agency or a sub agency, make sure that you're listing like the parent agency. So if you're like at a small subdirectory of the Treasury Department, put United States Treasury Department, right, as your employer. Don't put the sub department name because many people won't have heard of the sub department. Um, your role, your title is the next thing they're going to look at. So where did you work? What did you do? And your role title should match the job description that you're applying for as best as you can. Don't feel bad or unethical about slightly modifying your job title as long as you're not misrepresenting yourself in your work, because job titles are all made up anyway. So if the government gives you a job title that doesn't really apply in the civilian sector, why shoot yourself in the foot by using your official title when you can just tweak it one or two words and still match what you did from a responsibility perspective, but give the recruiter or the screener that positive signal that, okay, they've done the job that I'm looking for, the role that I'm looking for, at a really impressive employer at the US Department of Energy or whatever. And they had 3 years of work there and they were laid off because they were promoted and they were a probationary employee. Again, ridiculous that we're in this situation, but that's actually what you're trying to get across to the screener's brain in 10 seconds or less. Um, Pare down everything you've done. Make your bullet points one line, two lines maximum. Don't have these 3 or 4 line bullet points that I see on so many government resumes. You need to be very concise when describing what you've done. They're probably only going to read employer, title, years there, first bullet point, second bullet point, jump all the way down to education and skills at the bottom of your resume. And they're going to make sure that you have the skills to match up with what they're looking for. They're going to make sure that you're smart, that you went to a university, that you got a degree. It's not true for everyone, obviously. Where you went to school does not describe your abilities to precision, but it is a signal, again, positive signal they're looking for. So you want to make sure in 10 seconds or less, employer, relevant role, years worked there, first bullet point, a responsibility or achievement, second bullet point, responsibility or achievement. Your education is tight, very easily described. Okay, they got a bachelor's of X at Y. They graduated this many years ago. I can kind of pinpoint in my head how many years of experience they have in their career. And they go down to skills. Great. They match up with what we're looking for. Interests. Oh, cool. They're a human being with things that I also like. Let's get them on the phone. That's what you're trying to get across in the resume. And so if you go to sheetsresume.com/resume template, you'll find our free resume template that's been used by millions of people over the last 5 or 6 years. Um, and it's been battle tested by so many of them, and it just gets results. I cannot tell you how many people, tens of thousands of people, have emailed me saying that they have gotten incredible results after switching to our resume format. And if you're looking for something a little more helpful, if you're have experiencing writer's block or you have a blank page problem like I do with my ADHD, you can use our AI resume builder at sheetsresume.com/builder. And that's going to get you, AI suggestions for your resume, every bullet point, every sub bullet point, company descriptions. Our AI will research the internet, and you'll be able to list the most impressive thing about your department that you worked at. And I hope that our tools are very helpful for you as you navigate this transition. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being a good civil servant. And we appreciate your time with the U.S. government, even if others did not.